Okay, so for number 19, it's on the calculator active part. So your f of x is e to the x, and your g of x is x to the fourth. We're trying to find where the rate of change, so that means the derivative, of f of x is greater than the rate of change, so the derivative of g of x. So I use the calculator to do this. Let's zoom in. So before I went to the calculator, so if we find the derivative of f of x, the derivative of e to the x is still just going to be e to the x. And then if we find the derivative of g of x, that's going to be 4x to the third. So in the calculator, in your y equals, so I put e to the x in y1, and then I put 4x to the third in y2 in the calculator. And I'm going to graph these. Alright, so on the graph, if you just graph, so e to the x is going to look like this. So this is our e to the x function. And that's our f of x here. Our derivative of f of x. And then if you graph your 4x to the third, it has a curve. And it looks like this. But if you were to keep graphing this, these two lines are going to intersect eventually. So they're going to intersect way up here. So you need to be able to find that point. So I'm going to go ahead and find this intersection because it's already on the graph. So if we go to second, trace, intersect, this point where they intersect here, like that, is 0.831. So that's where they intersect there. So in order to figure out the other intersection, you need to change your y max in your window to about 2000. And that'll show you where they intersect. So if you look at your graph, they intersect at the bottom, but see how they also intersect at the top? So we need to find where that intersects. I'm going to do second, trace, intersect again. Move the cursor. So that's at 7.384. Okay, so those are our two intersections. So thinking about the graphs, this green graph right here was our derivative of f, and we're trying to figure out when this graph is greater than the derivative of g. So we're trying to figure out when this graph is on top. So this little section right here, the graph is on top of this graph, so it's greater. So that little part would be from negative infinity to that 0.831. Okay, for the next part of the graph, this is where g prime of x is on top, so that doesn't count. But if you look here, where this would intersect, this is another little section where it would be on top. So that's why the other part was the 7.384, and then the rest of the graph, f prime of x would be greater than our g prime of x.